Did you know that 30 to 40% of expats, and even some sources say 70% of them, return home after just 2 years? Are you at risk of becoming a returnee? Let's talk about it. Hello, hello, and welcome back to SWRA, Single Women Retiring Abroad. I'm Maggie, your host. Thank you so much for joining me again. Today, I want to talk about the phenomenon that I have been reading about: expats returning home after just 2 years. And in some publications I've read, if you can make it past 5 years, you're going to be there for the long haul. So today I want to take you through why some people may not make it as an expat abroad. So please like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 3,000 subscribers, much sooner than we thought. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was inspired to address this topic after reading the story of a couple who had been expats for 13 long years and then ended up going back home. And even though the reason for them going back was not something personal, it was because there was an aging parent back home needing their help and they had to go. But there are a host of issues with returning home after being away for so long and after divesting yourself of everything that you have, your home possessions, and then going back. So to me, it seems like you would almost become an expat in your old country. I've read that 30 to 40% don't make it after a year. The stats are all over the place. And there is an organization called where is it again? The International Organization of Migration. And their number says 4%. Somewhere else, like in Forbes and CNBC and other magazines, it's about 30 to 40%. And I even heard a source say 70%. So it's all over the place. But what we do know is that not everybody makes it, right? You've heard stories of people coming back from Spain, coming back from Ghana, coming back from Mexico, Ecuador. It's all over the place. Now, we have to understand that when you're reading things in a magazine, you're listening to it in the news, there is always an element of sensationalism. They make something sound so good, and there are going to be some people that kind of get caught up in all that euphoria, I call it, and then they'll make a move. And this is what SWRA is about. We're trying to get you to say, okay, let's take a step back. First of all, could this work for me? Am I the kind of person who could make it abroad? And I have told you that it's not for everybody. If you do the self-assessment that is in the description, it's non-scientific. It's not a form that has been, studied and it's been validated. It's just some basic question to get your mind to start thinking about those things. So we know not everybody is suitable. I know that, right? So we're going to go through the process of saying, what are some of the reasons that could cause you to become a returnee, I call it. So the whole phenomenon of selling everything and saying goodbye and just saying, I'm going to be there for the long haul, if that's what you decided. And then after 2 years saying, oh, I cannot make it. I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to go back. Okay? So remember the skill set that I talked to you about: decision-making, resilience. All these things are super important for you to make sure. You can't prevent, you can't prepare and foresee all eventualities, but at least you want to give yourself a good chance at succeeding in this new venture, because it is a venture. And I keep harping on how important it is to make those decisions. Last video, we talked about retiring early, but it could be just retiring that you need to do the SWOT analysis and see where you are on your journey, on the continuum of life, to see if you even should consider moving abroad, because it comes with such a different set of challenges. And another thing, another skill set, another personality trait that people who live abroad, who have lived abroad successfully, the open-mindedness, right? And I think that's one of the questions, do you know people who don't look like you? Do you hang out with them? How do you feel about that? Because you're going to immerse yourself in a whole new culture, which is a key activity, I guess, for you to be successful. Okay? So, expat failure, as I call it, is the inability to make it in a new environment based on certain factors. And what are some of those factors? Let's go back a little bit before we even get into the factors that could cause you to not be successful in your new venture. In this crazy world that we live in, there is something we call trend and there is something we call a fad. And a lot of people feel that this expatriation, we went somewhere the other day and in a building over here, not too far from me, and the staff were saying, what is going on? We see so many people coming in now, American, Canadian, South Americans, European. What is going on? It's like people get caught up in this frenzy. Is it a trend or is it a fad? A trend is something that is happening. It is slow going, and then it increases, and then it lasts. It has lasting power. That's a trend. And I remember like in before 2020, every year, I'm sure they do it right now, people talk about the next trends coming in. I remember one was people, what do they call it again? Cocooning. Cocooning was supposed to be a trend or a fad. I don't know. I think it became a fad. So a trend has staying power. A fad, it rises fast. Everybody's excited. And then boom, it plummets. So is this expat exodus? Well, it can be expat exodus. That would be, I don't think that would be an accurate combination word. But expatriation, or moving abroad, is it a trend or is it a fad? What do you think? Tell me in the comment, because you guys are very active in the comment and I love it. I love it. And it's mostly interactive. It's positive. You do have a couple of trolls in there here and there, but I'm loving it. I love the exchange. So is moving abroad a trend? What do you think? I don't know. The jury's still out. So things like recent trends, veganism, plant-based lifestyle, are those trends or fad? What do you think? TikTok, well, Facebook definitely is not a fad, right? But you have got to think about it. Are people getting caught up in all the sensation? Is the glamour? And of course, the media has a lot to do with it. International Living and all the other magazines and publications. Oh, Panama is in the news right now. Panama is the cheapest place to retire. I don't know about that. Those of us who are living here. And cheap is relative, right? Compared to what? So if you've been living in Panama, let's say for 15 years, and you end up having to go back, think about the effort, the mental exercise it took for you to go through what I call successful acculturation, you could call it, just embracing the new culture. And then you're going to have to go back and you know there are going to be lots of changes, right? So you're going to have to readjust again. That is a lot for your brain and your psyche to handle, right? Okay. So is it a trend or a fad? The jury's still out. We're having conversation, which is something I hope we do in these videos, because we have lost, at least where we come from, where I come from, the art of dialogue. We don't need to agree on everything, but we can have intelligent dialogue. All right, I'm not going to say anything more about that. You know where I'm going with that, right? Okay. So you took the assignment, you watched the assessment, you watched the videos, you look at your financial situation, your family situation, and you say, okay, I am expatriating to Thailand. I'm going to Cuenca, Ecuador. I'm coming to Panama. I'm going to Costa Rica. One thing you really need to be clear on is your why. Why am I doing that? We went over in previous videos about, at least for the older expat group, 3 things that are important to us, or maybe that have caused us to consider moving abroad. Cost of living, because people say it's become unsustainable wherever you're at, right? Cost of healthcare, and the presence of a expat community. We're going to stick to those 3 as we move through all my videos, because it's just so much simpler. And of course, this list is not exhaustive. There are lots of other factors to consider, correct? All right. So you done your homework and you're like, okay, no, I qualify. I feel good. I'm going to do it. But what is your why? Do you have anything else in addition to that? You want to know what my why was? I wasn't so much concerned about cost. I mean, I own my home. I had a very comfortable mortgage, I told you, but there was isolation where I was living. That was not good. I didn't want that. And I live in a suburb in a gated community. I wanted more community. I wanted to be around people. And that's why I'm in the city. Cost of healthcare definitely was a factor for me. But my biggest why was I did not want to grow old where I was, because the prospect of ending up in a nursing home was terrifying. It is still terrifying, because even as an expat and you moving to some place, if you're a thoughtful person and you make decisions based on data and you're really looking at all factors, you should have a plan B in case things don't work out, or even a plan C. And I do have a plan B. I don't think I have a plan C, but I do have a plan B if this doesn't work out. But it's like when you start a business. I remember when I was starting my businesses, they say, if you have a plan B, that means you're not fully committed. That's debatable, right? So my why, you know what my why was? What is your why? If you are an expat living abroad, if you're here in Panama, you're in Ecuador, Costa Rica, wherever you might be, tell me in the comment, what is your biggest why you moved abroad? Okay? Because whatever you're going to experience in your new home, you have to measure it against that why. Is this a big enough issue that I'm going to forget my why and head back? Right? That should be a good exercise for you. All right. So you have your why, you did your homework, and you transition. And my videos are still here to help you with the soft landing, to connect and do all these things. And I'm trying really hard every week to bring you content to help you be successful in this transition. Some of the factors people have identified for people going back. I told you this couple, they had an aging parent, needed help. So could you or could they have found ways to make it work without having to uproot themselves and go all the way back? I believe there are other factors. I don't think that one factor was, the only reason. And even before you move to another country, if you have aging parent, I met someone today, she said, I'm worried about that. My mom is in the 90s. You need to consider all those factors and have, what's the word I'm looking for? Have some plans in place for you, how are you going to maneuver that? Because life is life. Just because you're moving abroad doesn't mean the problem goes away. Your responsibilities are still there. Number one is health. If somebody, the expat, him or herself, has health problems that they feel cannot be managed where they're at. I was talking to a person today, and I asked that question. She's like, "Oh no, healthcare is cheaper here, and home healthcare is cheaper here. No, I'm good." And my friend, also another friend, says, "No, I feel like I can hire a local to take care of me instead of having to ship myself back home." So declining health. Another thing was I think the first one was family. The first one was missing family, especially if you, let's say you're a grandparent and there are babies coming, you just you don't feel like you want to miss out. So missing family, health, financial reasons, maybe you didn't plan well enough, okay? Because people think everything is so cheap here, or maybe you didn't choose the right place that you could afford in your budget. Other factors could be what I call failed integration. You didn't integrate in the community well enough, and you still feel isolated. When you're an expat, I'm an immigrant, even to the US. When you immigrate and you move into a different culture, there is still an element of you always being a foreigner. I remember when I moved from New York to Florida and I was meeting some ladies, and that's what they said. She said, I've been here 40 years. I'm still seen as a foreigner. So please don't base your decision to go back because a Panamanian calls you a foreigner. Even your cedula says you're a foreigner. Did you know that? That ID card says E cedula extranjero. So when you go in an office, when you go to a restaurant, wherever you go, you hand that card. Even if you speak fluent Spanish, it identifies you as a foreigner. So get on with it. Get used to it. Okay? So you can make it work. So failed integration could be you don't learn the language after 15 years. After 2, 3, 4, 5 years, somebody still has to drive you around. You still don't know how to shop by yourself. You're still getting gringo prices because you don't know how to shop or to barter. You haven't done anything with the community around you to make you feel like you're part of it. Even though you're an extranjero, you are a foreigner, but there are ways to embrace the community and they will embrace you too. Because it doesn't matter what you do. I can comb my hair a certain way. I can wear a pollera, but I'm still a foreigner. And you got to get used to it. Okay? So don't isolate yourself to the point where you have failed to integrate in your new home with the community. So we talk about finances. And of course, some people get upset with the bureaucracy, the pace of things, the mañana mindset. And that's not just here in Panama, it's throughout Latin America, Central America. And then somebody would say, oh, it's the same in Africa. It's the same in the... So Americans, Canadians, Europeans, relax. You're not going to change it. You're the one supposed to change and adapt, okay? So those reasons, you miss family, your health or the health of a loved one over there, failed integration, that includes language, right? And financial reasons. For some reason, you haven't managed your money well, then either you're running out of money or you just haven't learned to live within your means. And you're upset about the bureaucracy and the way things are. So, I mean, I can imagine having to go back home because I failed to integrate. I would see that as a failure on my part. Okay. So please do what you need to do to integrate. All right. So now that we know the reason these 30, 40, 70% people are having to return home, I wanted to interview someone who's been here for a long time and see what is keeping you here. Well, I spoke to someone who's been here 7 years, even though it's not a long time, but it's past the 5-year mark. You know, it's kind of like a 7-year itch in a marriage. You've heard of that, right? So that means she's over that threshold. She says, you know, she has integrated, she's got good friends, they're in community, she's volunteering, she bought an apartment, she's not going anywhere. And her why was strong. So she's here for the duration. Okay. Now, what could we do to keep you from becoming a returnee? I mean, to me, I would think there is a sense of failure if it's not because of health or family or whatever, to say, oh, I couldn't take it. They only speak Spanish around me. Everything is so slow. I can't get anything done. To me, that is a failure on your part. Someone said the other day, this person moved somewhere and then the weather pattern, she's like, oh my God, no one told me it was going to be this hot. Okay. First of all, I'm like, did you do any homework? And I know one lady on YouTube here in the area, you know, she has some posts where she's like, people expect to be fed information. And I feel like that too. They don't want to do their own homework. They want you to tell them everything. And when I see these posts, I'm telling you, I don't even respond because I'm like, sis, if you had done your homework, you would know that. I had someone ask the question, do they speak Spanish in Ecuador? Okay. I don't trust myself to say anything about that one. So what are some practical, oh, I forgot. Please stop what you're doing, like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. I'm committing myself to doing one live every time we hit 1,000 subscribers. So we're gonna have a live when I'm about 20 subscribers away, I will announce it, okay? So what are the things that we can do to prevent you from becoming a returnee, to decrease the number of failed expats, failed expatriation? I don't like that word because I want everybody to be successful. And remember, I'm saying sometime if it's not now, maybe it's later, maybe it's not now. But if you've gone through the whole process of uprooting yourself and coming here or anywhere else, you owe it to yourself to do it right, to give you the highest chance of success. First of all, prepare, do your assessment, watch the video, listen to people, make phone calls, do relocation tours, have, you know, talk to people. I talk to people on the phone. They say, you know, I was talking to this young lady the other day. She's a nurse like myself. And I'm like, you know, if you can find a company to hire you to do online, then you're good. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. See, she is researching, and this is what it's all about. Okay? So do your research. Number 2, commit yourself to integrating in your community. Learn Spanish before you get here. And when you're here, continue with your Spanish lesson. Don't use Google Translate as a crutch. It's like something that you can't get rid of. It's right here with you. No, open your mouth and say things. People will tell you. You've heard that before. People, the locals want you to try to speak their language. They'll help you. They'll laugh with you, not at you. It does not have to sound perfect. I happen to have a good pronunciation, but when I'm hearing like my friend Sonia say something and I keep saying it for her to say sorry, she's like, I can't say it like that. She's a gringa. Her tongue is wired a certain way. So why wouldn't she say it? They still understand what she's trying to say, so no excuses. Get with the local. Go to the little shops. Become friends with the people who are selling you stuff. You know, I don't buy meat a lot, but there is this young man when I go to if I'm making sancocho or I'm cooking for someone and I only go to him because he's so kind and respectful and he cuts the meat. I'm like, gracias. So we become buddies. And when they see you come, they're like, hola, you know how it is. That's part of the integration. I go to the movies. I watch movies in Spanish, and I don't want them to give me a subtitle because I have the news, the TV on all day because I'm listening to the news. I listen to interviews. I'm not perfect in Spanish yet, but I understand. But most of us can hear. It's the speaking that's the problem. So open your mouth and start speaking. Please, 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 please. Um, Finances. Of course, you should have done your homework, but if it's getting a little tight, learn to do something. Or start a YouTube channel, do Amazon, do teaching. Some people are paying people to help them get, when they come here to the relocation, take them around. You could do that. Find something to do to bring you some extra money. We talked about the language. Now, the bureaucracy, I can help you with that. The mañana, I can help you with that. And I don't think the Panamanians can help you either. And we think we have it bad here. People say you need to go to Europe. It's even worse, okay? It's worse in places like Portugal, France, Spain, trying to get health care. You don't speak the language. Now, I speak a little Spanish, but I can imagine trying to learn Portuguese or Chinese or German or Thai. That's why I'm staying right here because that's too much for me. And that should be part of you deciding where you go. The ease of learning a language. I failed the language exam in the Peace Corps because I was learning a tribal language that was really, really hard. And then I realized, you know what? This aging brain, this body that's going down, it doesn't matter how good I look, my body is going down. My brain inside the skull it's getting old, okay? Don't believe the hype. This is reality. Some people complain about the infrastructure. What are you going to do? This is where you chose to come to live. Yes, we have potholes. Yes, we have uneven sidewalk. Sis, you should have known that before you got here. That's just the way it is. If the government invests and they make it better, gracias. But that should not be a reason for you to say, oh, I can't do it here because they have uneven sidewalk. Okay? If you're in a wheelchair, I tell you, Panama City is not handicap friendly yet. I'm sure somebody is looking at it. But don't come here and then complain and then give the place a bad name because you did not do your homework. All right. So I think you get what I'm trying to say. Don't become a returnee unless it's absolutely necessary. Poor planning is going to cause you to be a failure as an expat. Oh, that is such a strong word. I use that word when I lost my business, my restaurant, when I had to close it. I felt like a failure. But in hindsight, even my family said, well, my daughter said, Mom, you did your best. You gave it your all. And I did. I was falling asleep going home. I bumped into cars because I was so tired, but I was so determined to make it work. And sometimes, despite everything you do, you don't make it. But you need to feel that I've done my best. I did my homework. I gave it 110%. And then if it happens, it happens. But make sure you're in a place where your conscience is clear, that you did your homework and you position yourself for success as an expat. Don't become a statistic. And that's why we are here in SWRA to support you, to say, sis, if you need me to come bring you some soup, I will do it. If you need me to come clean your apartment when you can't, we will do it. We'll take turns. We'll do shifts. If you're sick, we got you. That's what community is about, right? So don't become a statistic. Do not become a returnee. And that's probably another video that I would have to talk to somebody because I'm not experiencing being a returnee and I don't want to. But I'm pretty sure understand that you would have some trouble readjusting to what you left for however long you left it. And the longer you here, you're abroad, and then you have to go back. I can imagine the harder it is. All right. So don't become a returnee. Don't become a statistic. Do your homework. Do everything you can to integrate, to embrace your new home. All right. So I'm going to stop here. Ooh, 35 minutes. I don't have 15-minute videos anymore, guys. I'm sorry. I apologize. So remember, I will do a live when we are close to 3,000. And I know we're going to hit it before the end of the month. And I give God the glory. And I thank you for your support, your love, your encouragement. All right, guys. I'm going to stop right here. Ooh, the weather is bad. All of a sudden, there's a storm. God loves you. I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye bye. My friend and I stumbled upon this little piece of paradise on the other side of the Amador Causeway. Look at that. Just enjoy the view. Panama, beautiful. Why would anybody not fall in love with Panama? I'm sorry. There's a walk path. I know I'm a little biased. You can walk. Look at that. Discovering Panama with Maggie.